The Underground Railroad was not a fixed system. It was always changing routes, with old ones closing and new ones opening. The system started around 1786 but was not called the Underground Railroad until about 1831. It was a secret passage for slaves to escape to the north or to Canada. The system primarily took place in the regions bordering slave states. The Underground Railroad was not actually underground or on the railroad. There were people who wanted to help the slaves escape to freedom so that all men and women would be equal. This would be in the best interest for the slaves and the American people. People that guided the runaway slaves were known as conductors. Stations were where the slaves would be rested and fed and get clean clothes. The station masters were those who actually kept the slaves and provided them with comfort. Harriet Tubman, also known as Black Moses, or Moses of her people, helped many slaves escape by making at least 19 trips and exporting at least 300 slaves to freedom. Levi Coffin played a big role in the Underground Railroad. Starting in 1826, Levi and his wife, Catherine, living in Newport, Indiana, would help about 100 escaped slaves a year. Catherine would feed the slaves while they were staying at the Coffin home and would also give them new clothes to wear. Levi Coffin was a major conductor for the Underground Railroad. His job in this position was to arrange the slaves' transportation to the next station and return of all the fugitives to their destination of Canada or a safe place in the north. William Still was often called the father of the Underground Railroad. Quakers were people who believed that slavery was a violation of the church principles. The Quakers were merchants of a religious society of friends. They would continually help runaway slaves as they believed no person should be owned by someone. If slaves were caught by bounty hunters, they would be returned to their owners. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was passed, making any fugitive in a free state in danger now. The master of the runaway slave could regain his fugitive property. This law made it so that marshals, deputies, and all good citizens needed to assist in the return of all fugitive slaves. If slaves were able to make it to Canada, they were protected by a sanctuary provided by British Canada. For the slaves to get into Canada, they would usually go to Detroit, Michigan, also known as Midnight. This is where the United States land ended at the Detroit River, and they would take a boat to Canada where they would be free. The Underground Railroad ended in 1865. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was read on January 1st, 1863, slavery officially ended when the 13th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified by the states in 1865.